There's a fundamental distinction in ABA that many professionals often confuse: the difference between frequency and rate. Getting this wrong can significantly impact your data and your client's progress. This seemingly small difference is actually massive in clinical measurement, directly influencing how we understand and respond to behavior. And this brings us directly to our first fundamental variable in continuous measurement: frequency. Frequency is, quite simply, a raw count. It answers the crucial question: how many times did a specific behavior occur? For instance, imagine a child engaging in a particular repetitive action 5 times during a defined observation period. The frequency of that behavior is 5. We're not concerned with how long each instance lasted or the intensity, but purely the numerical occurrence. And that's why simply stating a raw count, like a client hit their desk 15 times, can be incredibly misleading. Here's the key to understanding the frequency flaw. Without crucial context, specifically the observation time, that number 15 is clinically useless. Think about it. Did they hit their desk 15 times in 5 minutes during an intense session, or 15 times spread across an entire 8-hour day? The implications for intervention and assessment are vastly different. And that's why accurately measuring behavior isn't just about how often it occurs. Here is the key. We must also consider the temporal dimension, or how long a behavior lasts. Think about it. Is a child watching TV for 5 minutes or for 2 continuous hours? The duration provides critical context. It tells us whether an intervention needs to address a brief, fleeting engagement or a prolonged, sustained activity. And that's precisely why understanding the temporal dimension is so crucial. Frequency alone, just counting how many times something occurs, often isn't enough to give us the full picture. Imagine a behavior happens 10 times. Is that a lot? It depends entirely on the duration of observation. But look at this. When we introduce time into the equation, we get a rate. Rate, simply put, is frequency divided by time. So if that behavior occurred 10 times in 1 hour, that's a very different scenario than if it happened 10 times over an entire week. And that's why understanding rate, not just frequency, is critical. But look at this clinical scenario presented here. We clearly see the same number of tallies, 10 instances of a behavior, in both session 1 and session 2. However, session 1 recorded those 10 instances within a single hour, while session 2 spread those identical 10 instances across a full 5-hour session. Here is the key distinction. The raw frequency, or count, is indeed identical, but the rate at which the behavior occurred is vastly, profoundly different. And that's precisely what this visual illustrates so clearly. When we first observed the behavior, let's say a student engaging with a task, they completed 10 hits within a single hour. This gave us a rate of 10 hits per hour, a very high active rate. But look at this. If that same student still produces 10 hits, but now it takes them 5 hours to achieve that count, the underlying truth is exposed. The rate plummets to just 2 hits per hour, indicating a significant decrease in engagement or proficiency. Frequency alone, just seeing 10 hits, can be incredibly misleading. Only by considering the time context, the rate, do we genuinely understand the change in behavior. As we see, frequency, a simple count of how often a behavior occurs, is ideal when your observation periods are consistent. Imagine tallying how many times a student answers a question during a precisely timed 20-minute independent work session. It's perfectly suited for discrete behaviors, those actions with a clear, observable start and stop, like clapping hands or saying a specific word. But here is the key. When your observation times are unpredictable or vary significantly, relying solely on frequency becomes misleading. That's when you must turn to rate. Rate accounts for those varying observation periods, providing a standardized measure, like instances per minute or per hour. If you're preparing for the RBT exam and want realistic practice, full mock exams, and structured study tools, visit myrbtprep.com to get started.